All right, today we're diving into a really fascinating and, pretty bold idea. It's called the Chemosignal Advantage Theory.
So let me ask you something. What if, right now, completely beneath your conscious awareness, your body is part of a secret conversation, sending and receiving signals that actually shape how you bond with people, how you cooperate, and even who you're attracted to? Well, that's the wild idea at the very heart of this theory.
The science behind all this kicks off with something called chemosignals. Now, we're not talking about perfume or the kind of body odor you normally think of. Nope. These are specific, totally odorless compounds that our bodies produce, and they can have a direct, subconscious effect on the emotions and behaviors of the people right next to you.
So let's get introduced to the main players in this invisible chemical world. These are the architects of that secret conversation. The theory really zeroes in on three key compounds. First up, you've got estrotetraenol. We'll just call it EST. It's linked to things like boosting your mood and making you feel more empathetic. Then there's androstenedione, or AND. This one can dial down aggression and plays a role in attraction. And then there's hexadecanol, or H. And this one is incredible. It's found on the scalps of newborn babies, and it can literally block male aggression. It's like it creates this little protective chemical bubble around the infant. So cool. And just to give you an idea of how cutting edge this research is, get this. That aggression-blocking power of hex, scientists only figured that out in 2021. We are seriously just scratching the surface of this hidden language. Okay, so here is where the theory makes its biggest, most central claim. It's going to connect these invisible signals to specific groups of people and their evolutionary story. So the core idea is this. People whose ancestors evolved in tropical environments, specifically in Africa, developed certain biological traits that basically turned up the volume on their ability to produce, hang on to, and communicate using these chemosignals. The theory points to three specific adaptations. First, a higher density of what are called apocrine glands. Think of them as the body's little factories for making these signals. Second, skin that's really good at resisting UV rays, which means you can have a more active outdoor social life where these signals get shared. And third, tightly curled hair. The idea here is that it acts kind of like a wick or a natural diffuser, holding onto these signals and releasing them slowly over time. And there's actually some old school data that backs up part of this. A study from way back in 1926, found that African Americans had on average 3 times the density of these apocrine glands compared to Europeans. So this observation has been around for a while, and it's a key piece of the puzzle for this theory. Now, to really understand why these traits might have been so important, the theory says we gotta wind the clock way, way back into the deep history of our ancient ancestors. So here's a quick roadmap to get us oriented. You can see our shared ancestry with chimps and bonobos, then Homo sapiens emerging in Africa, and eventually the point where we were the last hominids left on the planet. So the theory suggests a huge split in how our ancestors organized themselves. On one path, you've got the tropically adapted Homo sapiens. They developed these super cooperative, empathy-first societies, kind of like our bonobo cousins. But on the other path, you have the northern hominids, like Neanderthals. Their tough, cold climates favored a different strategy, one focused on aggression and survival in small, isolated groups. And the ultimate conclusion here, this enhanced social toolkit, basically supercharged by chemosignals, gave our ancestors a massive advantage. It meant better teamwork, more innovation, stronger communities, and, the theory argues, it's what helped them outcompete all the other hominid species. Okay. So we've covered the biology, but hang on, because this is where the theory takes a really wild turn. It suggests this isn't just about biology. It's that ancient people actually knew about this stuff, and they encoded that knowledge into their myths and symbols. The idea goes like this. In a place like ancient Egypt, a dense civilization in a tropical climate, the effects of these chemosignals would have been an everyday thing. You'd feel it, you'd see it in action. And it was so powerful that it got woven into their most sacred beliefs. This brings us to what's called the Ankh hypothesis. You know those images of Egyptian gods holding the Ankh symbol up to a pharaoh's nose? The theory says that's not just a nice gesture. It's a symbolic inhalation of different social superpowers, each one tied to a specific chemosignal. The Ankh for life and empathy, like EST, the Wa scepter for power and authority, like AND, and the Jed pillar for stability and protection, just like Hex. And you can see this in their stories too. There's this aggressive baboon god Bobby, who represents a kind of toxic, destructive masculinity. But then you have goddesses like Hathor, who can come in, restore social harmony, and lift everyone's spirits. It's almost like a mythological playbook for how chemosignals could balance out social behavior.
And this isn't just an ancient Egypt thing. The theory points to similar patterns in matrilineal or female-centered societies all over the world. From the Masuo in China to the Ankh in Ghana, these cultures all find ways to prioritize social harmony and female leadership, often in ways that seem to defy typical male physical dominance. The theory suggests that maybe these pro-social chemosignals are helping to make that possible.
And to bring it all the way to the present day, the research highlights that a huge portion of African Americans can trace their roots directly back to these West African matrilineal cultures. It's this direct, living connection that has the theory's author calling for more research to be led by scholars from the diaspora.
So, where does all this leave us? Well, the theory isn't just about chemicals and ancient history. It's also a pretty big challenge to how science itself has been done.
Basically, it's arguing that for a long time, a very Western-centric view of science has been way too quick to dismiss ancient knowledge as just myths or folklore. But what if those stories weren't just stories? What if they were real observations, just encoded in the language of culture and symbol, instead of scientific papers?
And that leads to a really powerful call to action. It argues for what's called a decolonized approach to science. One where researchers from all different backgrounds can bring their own unique perspectives to the table, challenge old biases, and ultimately build a much richer, more complete picture of the world for all of us. So what's the big takeaway here? It's the incredible possibility that our biology, our deep history, and our oldest myths are all telling one big interconnected story. A story with a hidden layer of communication that has been shaping our social worlds all along, and we're only just now starting to tune in. And that really leaves us with a final massive question to chew on. If this theory is even a little bit right, what other profound secrets, locked away in ancient traditions all over the world, are just sitting there, waiting for us to rediscover them?